Okay, it's a video for our marketing manager that I wanted to share because why not? Might as well create some more content. So I wanted to talk about list segmentation. So here's the premise, here's the issue, here's what we're working through. We have a list of customers. We have a list of people to reach out to. We have a list of people who have done business with us. So what we want to do is we want to prioritize because we want everyone, we want them all to know about the imminent release of the book, Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. And then also to let them know what else is going on. We have an event coming up in October, which I forgot to put the link, but I'll edit the post and I'll put it in. And then we also have the usual consulting that we do, sort of the bread and butter. So we want to let everybody know. So what if you have a list of customers? In this case, we have a list of customers. How do we go about picking and selecting? So we're going to go through a process called segmentation. Okay, and there are 1,001 reasons and ways to segment a list or a market. But the reason we do segmentation is for usability, so we can do certain things with certain segments, right? I usually say this kind of like as a hypothetical. In a hypothetical scenario, you can craft everything around each customer, right? You can craft a whole message, a whole experience around each customer. But that's difficult if you have very many. But then also on the other extreme, the other side of it is like, well, I don't care who sees me or what kind of customer, what kind of potential customer, what kind of person gets my message. I'm just going to say the same thing and let them sort things out. So segmentation is a good way in which you can kind of strike a balance between being a little more personalized and not, drowning yourself in work. Okay. So now I mapped out three different slides, not slides, but pieces of paper where I'm gonna map some of this. So I could talk about this for hours, for days probably. So because I've really been thinking about this concept, but again, I'm not trying to just go in depth, but it's the only way that I can kind of work a lot of these things out in my head. So I'm going to start, let me start here. This is fine. So I'm going to start with this concept, and this is sort of classic marketing 101 information here. So there's this thing called RFM, which stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value, which just basically means how much money they're giving you. So one way in which you can segment out a list is how recently did they do business with you, how frequently have they done business with you, and how much money they gave you. Okay? Now if you have all that information, that's a good way of segmenting out a market into sections. Okay, so I'm going to talk to our marketing manager, Sandra, about that. And we'll talk more specifics, but let's talk general since this is a video that I'm sharing. So one thing that you want to do is, well, definitely we're going to segment out a list. And the reason we want to segment out a list is because, and I drew a funnel because, again, this is the classic, this is what you would find most commonly in a marketing program, okay? So our marketing manager, she has a marketing degree, but I'm going to be challenging her and challenging the assumptions of what we might deem a marketing funnel. And I put a question mark here for a reason. Is it a marketing funnel or is it a sales funnel? That's the question. And that is a very important question. And I'll tell you what the answer is real briefly without each of these little branches that I'm opening up in the conversation. I can literally go on forever, but I don't want to do that because I want to keep the video short. So I guess there's three things. One, most of the time you hear people talk about sales or marketing, sales or marketing, sales or marketing. I learned this from John Paul. It's not sales or marketing. It's marketing first, then sales. You cannot sell the people that you haven't marketed to. Okay? So that's one. Number two, you have the segmentation between the marketing and the sales. And I don't think, let me not use the word segmentation so it doesn't get confused with what we're talking about. You have this dividing line, this compartmentalization between marketing and sales because of the way that degrees are taught and because of the way companies have more traditionally segment out people to work on different chunks of it, okay? But I fundamentally think it's not wrong, but it's misguided. And so I did a little circle here. So it's not a Venn diagram, but it's a concentric circle, right? So you can think about marketing as existing inside of the sales process, okay? So in other words, if you have a person here that is a salesperson, the salesperson is also a marketing person. And this is especially true if it's a good salesperson. Some of the best salespeople have been also some of the best marketing people, like David Ogilvy, for example, right? So, but you can have somebody who's in marketing who's not very good at sales. And as a matter of fact, I think that's why we segment marketing and sales and we make them different. Because a lot of marketing people are not good at sales. But most people who are good at sales are great at marketing. At least a particular kind of marketing, right? It is a brand of marketing. I remember years ago talking about negotiation with John, and so we would talk about when does the negotiation start, right? And the negotiation starts the minute you send that first email, the minute you do the first handshake, the minute they even hear about you. That's when negotiation starts, which is also a principle in positioning, by the way. So the marketing funnel is something like this magic process that marketing people are familiar with that take people from not knowing you all the way to purchase. And I'm going to try to use some colors so it's not so boring. So purchase. Okay? So, and why am I saying marketing people talk about this? Because this is a process in which no sales are required. And that is sort of the holy grail of marketers is to find the process in which they don't have to sell. Okay? Now, there might be occasions in which there is some kind of semi-automated process in which you can present somebody with an offer and then they buy. But even in that case, even if your copy says 50% off, that's still sales. It's sales in print, it's copywriting, but it's still sales. All right? So what marketing person might say, call to action, right? A call to action in sales vernacular is the close. Okay? So the reason that I want to talk about this, and I said three things, so that's my second thing. The third thing is that the funnel is a metaphor. Okay? And it's a metaphor that you got to be careful with metaphors. Okay? And you might think that this is hilarious, which it is in many ways. Like I think about it sometimes and I go, why am I even reading this stuff? But it is really fascinating if you just give me a second. So one thing, I was reading this scientific paper called, a very fascinating subject because I was doing some research in the subject of metaphors. And it's called, The Price That You Pay for a Metaphor is Eternal Vigilance. A very ominous topic and name. But basically the whole idea is, look, once you set up a metaphor, and the scientific paper was talking about using metaphors in explaining scientific phenomena, is you set up a certain series of expectations in one go. Now, I don't think I have that book close to me right now. Unfortunately, is it? No. Anyways, it's a great book by the guy's name is William Epson, and William Epson wrote this thing called 7 Types of Ambiguity, and he has a bunch of nice sections on metaphors. But anyways, so a metaphor is where you can grab a whole lot of meaning in one go. That's why it's very hard to describe, let alone scientific papers or scientific discoveries using metaphors. Really anything. We can hardly talk without using metaphors, okay? But I guess there's 2 lessons here, maybe more. First lesson is that you should be careful about using metaphors, because you might confine yourself to a mode of thinking that is actually not accurate. Or maybe it is accurate in 1 dimension or 2, but not in the whole gamut of it. And so you might be locked into this place. The second lesson is it's a very sneaky way to persuade. Very sneaky way. So for me, the sales funnel is a pitch. And the sales funnel is a pitch for marketing. I think the sales funnel is a metaphor that's used to sell you and I, anybody, marketing. Now, if you're a marketing person, you instantly get sold this, and you get sold this from a university. And again, that's not saying that this is manipulation necessarily, unless you believe this is the all and be all, okay? In a funnel, and there's something to be said for the shape of the funnel, right? A bigger aperture on one end, smaller aperture on the other, and things, things flow, right? And actually, our 7th ace in the position to win system, which is what this book is about, and if I haven't mentioned, then you should go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com, and get notified of the official release. So the 7th ace in that process, we talk about sales funnels, we talk about sales processes, and very in depth, more in depth than I've ever read anybody talk about this. And we sort of, one of the things that we break down as a myth is, if the sales funnel is a real thing, and I'll get back to this, I promise, to the list. If the sales funnel is a real thing, then in the metaphor, what would gravity be? Because gravity is what makes a funnel work, right? If you can't use a funnel in outer space, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. It's just a piece of plastic or metal or whatever that might be. The fluid does not go from one end to the next unless there's gravity. Well, there's no such thing as that. I mean, maybe the only thing that's similar in the metaphor would be that gravity would be something like money. Except that that's not a true metaphor, because while you and I have, let's say, at least virtually infinite supply of gravity, we certainly don't have infinite supply of capital. So that's, for me, where this metaphor breaks. Now, why is this a concept that marketing people love? Because they don't have to sell, and so it's all good. But it's all sales. It's all sales. It's all sales. Okay? And I put a post not too long ago in Facebook that said there are 2 kinds of people in the world: the ones that know that they're in sales, and the ones that don't. And that's it, because we're all in sales. If you consider sales the way to get things done, really. I mean, even the you'll hear this kind of cheesy motivational things that salespeople tell themselves is the first sale you have to make every day is a sale to yourself. And that's kind of cheesy in a motivational kind of Tony Robbins quasi way, but it's actually kind of true, because you have to convince yourself to do whatever it is that you're going to do before you do it, or if not, you're not doing it. So that is a sale activity. That is a close. You perform a close in yourself, okay? Now, why am I going through this whole topic of talking about the sales funnel? I'm not even going to talk about this, because this is way too much. Plus, that way I can leave this video out, because I thought if I was going to talk about this and certainly talk about this, then I was going to have to remove the video, because it was maybe too much value for just a Facebook Live. Plus, I'm also still trying to figure a lot of these things out. So the reason we want to know this is because there are certain stages in which, let's say, the top of the funnel, and let's just call it a sales funnel, and even better, let's call it a sales process, because it's a path, okay? And it's not this inevitable flow of money, okay? Which is what people who are trying to sell you something, they want you to believe. Look, if you just get this, if you just set up the pages this way, if you just offer your product, somebody did this crazy post on So I follow The Economist on Facebook, and I see their stories first. And somebody was talking about these Say's law, and Say's law is basically talking about it's a macroeconomics theory, and it was being misapplied to microeconomics, saying something like, look, if you provide something, somebody's gonna buy it, right? In other words, build it and they will come, kind of thing. But it's Kevin Costner is not here, and this is not the way it is at all, because there are a lot of things that people build and offer you, and do you buy everything? No. And does everybody buy something? No. There's literally no. If you just think about the most ubiquitous thing in the world, like mobile phones or Starbucks, there's still more people that have never been to a Starbucks than have been. And if you're a Starbucks kind of person, that might be hard for you to believe. Like, what? No way. I'm sure everybody's been to Starbucks. No. That's not how it works. Okay? So let's quit thinking about, I'm not gonna make a big X here because it will look ugly, but let's quit thinking about this as this magical process from not knowing you to buying from you, and more of a sales process. Let me do red. More of a sales process that you're going to hone. Okay? So, Sandra, we have a list of people, and some of them have given money, some of them have not. Some of them have given more, some of them have given less. Some are not very recent, they're from long time ago. Some were very frequent. They said, they raised their hand one time or something. And some have given more and less money. So how do we go about sectioning these out? So what we want to do is we want to set up, let me just start a new one here. So let's set up 3 things, okay? Let's set up 3 buckets. Because I think, John always says 3 is the right number, and I tend to agree. 3 is a good number. So 3, let's just set up 3 buckets, okay, of people. So 1, we're gonna call them, let's say we call these current, former, and just prospects. Okay, so let's segment these into these 3 categories, just to make it easy. And our task would be to come up with a way to let them know about the book, about the event, and about John Paul and I. And I. All right, that's going to be the main core of it. Okay, so this way we basically come up with 3 options per each, right? We're gonna let the people who are just prospects, they're out there. Maybe they know a little bit about us, maybe they know not that much about the book, about the event, and about John Paul and I. And then former people who were customers, they were engaged in some form. Again, same thing about each one. And current, okay? So that way, with 9 messages, we can target most of the list a little more personalized, okay? And so, what are the 3 messages? Well, the 3 messages can be as simple as 3 hooks, okay? So a hook is a sentence, it's something that grabs people, okay? So the way that, for example, the title of the book is constructed is a syllogism, okay? So it's basically, 3 sentences, right? And it's kind of like, if you think about, again, this is another marketing 101 kind of setup, which is you state the problem, you agitate the problem, and then you solve the problem, okay? So the problem is most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. Now we're gonna agitate the problem by saying, but it takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. wow, you think, okay, here's the problem. Yep, I have a business. Wow, I don't want that to happen to me. Wow, and it's gonna take me that long for me to realize that that I failed. That's not good. And then the third one, the solution to it. What is the solution to the problem? It's position to win. The position to win system. That is it. Okay. So that is a hook, right? It gets people going, right? Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. Boom, it grabs them, right? And I wish I could take credit for that hook. I can't take credit for it. So that's how it works. So we want to let people know. For example, letting people know about the book on each one of those. Really, the very name of the book should be a good hook, right? But then you need some supporting evidence. So for example, if we're going to be constructed 9 different emails, which I think it's a good place to start, because an email can be turned into a blog post, can be turned into an article, can be turned into a video. Okay? Then what are the 9 different angles, and this is your mission, Sandra, if you choose to accept it. What are the 9 different angles that we're going to be approaching this 3 different people, or really 3 different angles for 3 different people, talking about the 3 different things, okay? So that's what we want, and that is our goal. So in summary, I'm glad I didn't talk about the other things because it would have just taken me forever. So in summary, we have a list of customers. We're going to segment them out so we can be a little more personalized and we can be a little more effective at what we're doing. Why? Because every touch, everything we say, everything we behave, and this is another principle in positioning and another reason why this is very important, is because everything is sales. The way that somebody perceives your company before a salesman ever shows up at the door or you see the ad on Facebook or on TV, that is already the way that sales are set up. And so you right away or right away the market already knows and has a pretty good idea whether they want to do business with you or not. And it is your job to try to first take all of those into account, to take them as your constraints. They are your constraints. You can, and I've mentioned this before, I am a consultant. Me and John and I do different things on consulting for businesses, but we don't go out and compete against McKinsey or Bain Consulting Group or BCG, Boston Consulting Group, or Deloitte or any of those guys, because that's just frankly not going to happen. I'm not going to have a guy show up at my door saying, hey Gabe, we just been looking for you all over, come over, we have, a 500 million company, just waiting here for you. It's not going to happen. Okay. So that is a constraint, and I can't behave as if I am one of the big guys, one of the big consulting companies, because I'm not going to be believable, because let's face it, most of these people have never heard of me. Okay. I have been told, and people say, hey Gabe, I watched your Facebook Live video and that was really good and that really helped me to understand this, and why don't you come over to my office or my business and work this out. So anyways, that is important. But again, it is a process of marketing that is inside of sales. It's all inside of there. So we want to think sales rather than marketing. If we think marketing, we're taking a piece of sales out to work on it, and that's proper. I'm not saying that maybe that's not necessary to do. I'm not saying that companies shouldn't break up their teams, but I would be surprised if I would be surprised if there's not more cross-pollination that is probably taught and probably used. And there's probably a lot of potential there to be used in both sides. And especially when you get to bigger companies, these people, they don't even talk to each other, and that's terrible. That's terrible. For me, sales is the lifeblood of this, while at the same time most people don't want to do that, and that's understandable. I mean, who wants to go out there and get rejected? Nobody, except that's the only way you can find if people are up to or like what you have to sell or like what you have to say, because it's not just buying and selling products or services. It is also buying and selling ideas. and concepts and innovations. Okay, so I think this breakdown is improper. But anyways, so the point of this whole talk is I'm going to be challenging you, and I'm speaking directly to you, Sandra. I'm going to be challenging you and we're going to be challenging you in some of these concepts, because again, in the program we talk in depth about sales processes and we break them apart completely. Okay, and the point of that is that if there was such a way to really automate this and to just make it like like a funnel in the box, and you just you're out and you have sales and everything is good and the world is great, then it wouldn't be so valuable. Many people will be doing this, and as a matter of fact, and then if everybody would be doing it, or many people in the market would be doing it, then the market would stabilize out, and then pretty soon you'll have a commoditization, and everybody will be competing just based on price. Okay, so this is the reason why this is very valuable, because the process itself is very flexible and very varied, and it's something that actually in a business it's something I really like to play with, and really something I like to innovate, because I think there's a lot of potential. So whatever it is that you're selling, chances are you sell it like everybody else in your market sells it. So I ask you, is there a different way to sell that? Right? I have an electric company, for example, that they charge a membership fee, and then they recharge you based on use instead of charging you a bill at the end of the month. Why? Because it's their business model. They're trying to change things up. They're trying to do something different. So you can play around with the sales funnel. But anyways, I wanted to talk about the sales funnel as it's presented in school, maybe as you have learned it, Sandra, and as you kind of understand it, and then also to get you out of there and say, look, let's look at the box from the outside and look how it's set up. Because what is really going on is we have different levels of people, and so what we need out of the knowledge that we need to be abstracted from this right now is just the fact that there are people who are further up, or that don't know us as well, or don't know hardly anything about us, and there are people down here that have given us money and are our current customers. So those are all people on the list. So we want to segment those out so we can tell them about the new opportunities, the new things happening, and how we can cultivate some more of that. So I hope this has been helpful, and maybe if it's helpful also for you, then for anybody else watching it, besides just our marketing manager, then great. That's what I wanted to share, and that's it. I will be seeing you on the next one.